Welcome back to another DSCC lab walkthrough. Today we'll be going over Lab 4, Deploy Auto Enrollment. Our major tasks are to configure and troubleshoot auto enrollment for users and computers, re-enroll all certificate holders after template change, deploy and configure CES and CEP, and enroll a certificate using web enrollment. Alright, let's go ahead and begin with our first task, which is to configure and troubleshoot auto enrollment for users and computers. Now, our first step is to create a new GPO to enable auto enrollment. So let's go ahead and open up our group policy management console. Now, this GPO, we're going to create and link it at the root of our domain. Now, I already have this GPO created from a previous lab. So all we're going to do is edit the GPO that we already have. So let's navigate to computer configuration, policies, Windows settings, security settings, and public key policies. Now in this setting, we are going to look for the certificate services client auto enrollment. So let's go ahead and open that up. We're going to set this to enabled and check the first two boxes, which are to renew expired certificates, update pending certificates, and resolve revoked certificates, or remove and update certificates. So let's click apply and OK. And then we'll minimize our computer configuration and then do the same thing on our user configuration. So head to the same path, user configuration, policies, Windows settings, security, public key policies, and look for the same setting. Open it up and set this to enabled. Check the first two boxes and the additional third box at the bottom. Click apply and click OK. Now our next task or step is to initiate certificate auto enrollment on our workstation. So let's log into our workstation. Let's minimize this and then log into our workstation. And I'm going to log in as my DA. Alright, so now that we're logged in, let's close these old tabs out. Open a PowerShell console as an administrator. And first thing we're going to do is run a GP update command. Okay, so our command completed successfully, or update has completed successfully. And now let's run a registry query command for our local machine so that we can verify auto enrollment is enabled. So let's type registry or reg query HKLM for local machine /software /policies /Microsoft /cryptography and then /auto enrollment. No tag in auto enrollment. Alright, so this command didn't run. It looks like I made a typo. I put a Q instead of a G, so let me change this real quick and rerun this command. Alright, and now we can verify auto enrollment is enabled by the presence of this registry word set to 0x7. So now let's run the same command for our current user. So the only thing I'm going to change is this portion right here where it says HKLM to CU for current user. Alright, so I've made that change. It's the only thing I'm changing. Let's go ahead and run this command now. And you can verify the presence of auto enrollment or that it's enabled by the presence of the 0x27 next to your reg D word. So now let's verify the presence of a certificate issued from the XXMU user authentication template. So we'll run a cert util, tag store, tag user, and then my. And in this certificate, we want to verify that next to template, right? So here's our certificate 0. It's the only one that we have. And then it's issued to me. Next to that template, I see that I'm using the 11mu user authentication template. So now I'm going to run the same command except for without the user, so I can verify the presence of a certificate issued from the XXMU computer authentication template. Now, as you can tell, I have two for this one. I have certificate 1, and that was issued from the template XXMU computer authentication, and that older one was configured, or excuse me, it was issuing a template or issuing a certificate from the template of workstation, which is the default one. So let's practice some troubleshooting techniques now. We're going to run this cert util tag ds command to verify templates can be downloaded from a DC. As you can tell, I have a bunch of templates here. I have the ones that I created, and I have all the default ones as well. Alright, so this is what the beginning of it looks like. I can see my AIA locations and CDP locations. Okay, so now let's run a cert util tag AD template to verify caller has auto enroll on the expected templates. Alright, so the only one that should have auto enroll at this point is this 11mu user authentication. And you can see that it has nothing next to access is denied. Alright, so next to the other ones that say auto enroll, you see that access is denied because it isn't enabled on those templates like it is on 11mu user authentication. Now the next command we're going to run is a cert util command as well, so that we can verify client can connect to the enrollment interface on the CA over DCOM. So we'll run cert util space tag ping tag config 11mu subca dot 11mu dot usmc dot mil slash 11mu subca. Okay, so I made a typo on this one as well. As you can, I put the .mik instead of mil. So let me change that. Okay, and the command completed successfully. So now the next thing we're going to do is enable verbose auto enrollment login for computer auto enrollment and for user auto enrollment. So first let's do the computer auto enrollment. Let's add a registry key. So reg add in our local machine / software / Microsoft / cryptography / auto enrollment. Alright, so this is where we're going to create this new registry key. And this is going to be named AE event log level. Then we'll set the type, which is going to be a registry underscore dword or reg dword. And then we'll set this value to 0. Alright, the operation completed successfully. So now we'll do the same thing except for our current user with all the same settings. So let's change this LM to CU. Let's run this command. Okay, now we're going to delete the template cache. So let's do reg delete hkey/lm / software / Microsoft / cryptography / certificate template cache. Right, so execute, type in yes, and then we'll run the same command once again for our current user. All right, current user, type in yes, and complete it successfully. Okay, so now let's initiate computer auto enrollment and user auto enrollment. So let's type in cert util pulse to initiate computer auto enrollment, and then type in cert util pulse tag user for user auto enrollment. And now we're going to review the application event log for events with source certificate services client tag cert enroll. So I'm opening up my event viewer, and I'm going to navigate to the Windows logs and the application folder. All right, so we'll give this a second to load. And we're going to look for events with the source, like I said earlier, with certificate services client, tag cert enroll. All right, so as you can tell right here, they're the first four that pop up. And you can see in the general section over at the bottom that it says certificate enrollment for a user successfully loaded policy from policy server. Right, and then this follow on is also for my user auto enrollment. All right, there's some information. If I click on the one under that one, we see that this one was for my local system or my computer auto enrollment. And this one pertains to that as well. All right, so now our first step for task 2 is to modify the XXMU computer authentication template. So I'm in my sub CA right now, and I'm going to open my certification authority, and I'm going to navigate to the certificate templates folder under my sub CA. Okay, now I'm going to select manage, and I'm going to locate my 11mu computer authentication template. Now, before I edit this, I want to point out the version of this template. So once you change or make any changes to your template, this version number will change. So let's go ahead and make some changes. Let's change our validity period to 2 years instead of 1. Now let's click on apply and OK. And now notice how the version changed from 0.2 to a 0.4. So now that we've modified our template, let's go ahead and re-enroll our users. So right click on it and re-enroll all certificate holders. Okay, now once you've done that, let's close this out. Now we need to verify the modification to the template. So let's log back into our workstation and open up a PowerShell session. And let's execute a cert util pulse command. All right, press enter. Successfully completed. All right, so now let's run a cert util store my so that we can verify a new cert is installed with a longer validity period. Okay, so the certificate still hasn't loaded. Sometimes you have to do it more than once or just give it a second. So let's run the cert util post command one more time and then cert util store my. Okay, and then we see we have the cert 2. Now this is our previous one with the old validity period and the same template, right? Validity period of 1 year. This is original one, and here's the most current one, certificate 0, same template, 11mu, and the validity period is now set to 2 years, so it won't expire until 25. All right, now the first step for task 3 is to install the CES role service on our sub CA. So navigate to your server role section and expand Active Directory Certificate Service. And in here we are going to select Certificate Enrollment Web Service. Click on Add Features and then click on Next and complete the installation. Alright, so now that we have that done, let's do our post-deployment configuration. And let's select the Certificate Enrollment Web Service. We'll leave this page as default. So we'll click on Next. We'll leave this default as well. We'll change this to use the built-in application pool identity. Click on Next. And in here we'll choose and assign a certificate for SSL later. Click on Configure and close it out once the configuration has completed. So now let's install an SSL certificate on our sub-CA. So let's open up an MMC. And let's add the certificate snap-in. Now we're going to select the one for our computer account. And then we're going to navigate to the certificates, personal, and then certificates folder. Then go ahead and right click on the certificates folder, select all tasks and request new certificate. Click on Next and click on Next. Let the templates load. And select the 11mu SSL 2-year that we configured in the previous labs. So click on Enroll and click on Finish once it's completed. And now we see in here a new certificate issued from the 11mu SSL 2-year certificate template. So now that we have this in here, let's configure the SSL certificate in the website bindings. So let's close this out and open IIS Manager. And in here, on the left-hand side, we will expand sub-CA, sites, and then highlight default website. And on the right-hand side, we're going to select bindings. Then we'll open up the settings for our HTTPS. And we are going to select the SSL certificate that was issued from that template. So it might show up as a GUID like it is over here. So to verify that it's the correct certificate, we'll click on View and navigate to the Details tab and scroll down until you find the Certificate Template Information tab. And right there you can see that the template that this is being issued from is the 11mu SSL 2-year. So this is the correct one. So let's click on OK now that we've verified that and close this window out. So now that we've done that, we can configure CES delegation requirements. So let's close this out and log into our domain controller. Alright, now in here, we are going to open up our users and computers. And then navigate to your servers OU and highlight your sub-CA and navigate to the properties of your sub-CA. And then navigate to your delegation tab and select trust this computer for delegation to specified servers only and use Kerberos only. Then we will click on add, click on users or computers, and we are going to add 11mu sub-CA in this portion right here. So I'll go ahead and type it out, 11mu sub-CA, check names, click on OK, and we are going to look for host. Okay, there it is. Let's highlight it and then scroll down and look for RPCSS. So hold down the control button and click on it and click on OK to add both of them. Okay, and I've added both of them. So once you have those services in there, click on apply and then click on OK. Now let's install the CEP role service on our sub CA. So let's log back into our sub CA and open up your server manager and add roles and features. And on the server roles page, we are going to expand the Active Directory certificate services and select certificate enrollment policy web service. Go ahead and select that and click on next. Click on next until you complete the configuration or the installation. And once your installation has completed, continue on with the post-deployment configuration. We'll leave this authentication as default and click on configure. Alright, and then close this out once you've completed all of that. So now let's obtain the CEP URI and configure policy friendly name. So I'll open up my IIS manager on my sub CA and navigate over to sub CA and then sites, then default website, and highlight AD policy provider CEP Kerberos. Then we are going to open up our application settings and open up the settings for a friendly name. We're going to leave the name as it is, and we're going to change this value to 11mu enrollment policy. Okay. So now open up this URI settings so that we can copy this path so we can use it in the next step. So I'm going to copy it into a notepad, and then I'm going to save this notepad on my share drive that I also have configured from our previous labs. This way it's easier to navigate to it and use it later on when I need it on my domain controller. Okay, so we've copied that or saved it. Let's close this out, and now let's configure the enrollment policy GPO configuration. So once again, back into our domain controller, open up your group policy management console. And before we jump into this, let's take a look at our OU structure, our OU structure real quick. So open users and computers. Now, I already have a users and workstations OU from previous labs, right? So I'm not going to build that mobile computers or mobile users that it's asking us to do in the labs. I'm simply going to use the OU structure that I already have built in my environment. So that means the GPOs that I create will be applied to those OUs. So let's expand our 11mu OU folder in my group policy management console. And the first one we're going to configure is in our workstations. This is the mobile computers one. So let's name this one 11mu certificate enrollment policy. Click on OK, and now let's edit our GPO. So let's navigate to computer configuration, policies, Windows settings, security settings, and public key policies. Then open the settings for your certificate services client certificate enrollment policy and set it to enabled. And let's remove this Active Directory policy that is currently in there. Then we are going to add our own. So in here, we'll put the URI path that we copied over from the previous step. So let's go ahead and open up my share drive so I can navigate to that notepad where I saved that path. All right, let's copy this into this box right here, and then click on Validate Server. All right, and now my it was validated successfully with the correct friendly name, right, that we configured in the previous steps. So let's add this certificate enrollment policy and select the default so it makes it the default policy. Then click on apply and then click on OK. And then close out your group policy management editor. And now we'll do the same thing in our users OU. So this one will be named 11mu user certificate enrollment policy. And now let's edit our newly created GPO. And this time we'll navigate to user configuration, policies, Windows settings, security settings, and public key policies. And we'll open the same settings that we did in the previous one, which is certificate services client, certificate enrollment policy. And we will delete this default one that comes in there, and we will add the one that we added in the previous step as well. So this will be the same URI path. Once again, we will validate the server. All right, and once it is validated successfully, as mine did just now, we can go ahead and click on add, ensure that it is the default one, and click on apply and OK, and close out our editor. So now that we've configured this group policy, let's go ahead and enroll a certificate and validate the process used for CES and CEP services. So let me log into my workstation as my DA. And open up an MMC and add the certificate snapping. And we are going to add the one for my user account. So first thing we're going to do is navigate to this personal certificates folder and delete the current certificate in there, as well as the one in the Active Directory user object certificates folder. All right, so once you've deleted those certificates, open up a PowerShell session as an administrator. So let's minimize this. Windows PowerShell, run as admin. And first thing we're going to do is run a gp update command. The command has completed successfully. So now let's verify a new certificate has been installed. Let's run a cert util tag store tag user my. And there we have it, a new certificate. If I go back to my folder and refresh it, new certificate. Same thing, refresh. and new certificate with the appropriate template. Okay, now for our last step, we are going to enroll a certificate using web enrollment. So let's open up my Internet Explorer. And before we navigate to any website or URL, we're going to change some internet options. So navigate to the internet options, Internet Explorer. Set the security level for internet to medium. Then we'll set the trusted sites security level to low. And then we'll configure the sites for our domain. So let's remove this old one, and then let's add a new one for https // .11mu.usmc.mil/cert srv. Click on add and ensure that this box at the bottom is left empty and unchecked. And click on OK and navigate to https 11mu subca.11mu.usmc.mil /cert srv. Alright, so once this finished loading, we're going to attempt to request a certificate. So let's select request a certificate, then create and submit a new request to this CA. Click on yes on this warning that you get for confirmation, and now you get this other warning that says that you are receiving an error or that you can't because you don't have the permissions. So the main thing to note with this is that if you are unable to see this, it is likely because the schema version of the template is higher than the version supported by the service. So what we can do to verify that that is our error and not something else is that we can try to issue an unmodified template. So let's close this out and navigate back to our sub CA and open the certification authority. And then we are going to issue an unmodified user signature only template. So let's scroll down to user signature only, click on OK, and then head back to our workstation. And then open up Internet Explorer again, try to navigate to that same URL. Then once this URL loads, we will attempt to do the same task. So let's click on request a certificate, create and submit a new request to the CA, click on yes, and now we have no errors loading it. So it could be, and it is likely because the schema version of the template is higher than the version supported by the service. So let's configure our friendly name. This is going to be my user, so click on submit, click on yes, install this certificate. Now it's going to take a minute to load. Alright, my certificate has been successfully installed. So now let's minimize this, open up an MMC, and add the snap-in for certificates. And since that was a user certificate, we're going to select my user account, click on finish, click on OK, then navigate to certificates, personal certificates, and in here I see a certificate with that friendly name that I set and that web page issued by my sub CA.